You will pledge your allegiance to Poppy.
A YouTube commenter recently asked us the following question. If you're so sure you're right, why use brainwash editing techniques? In response, we're issuing the following warning. This video uses brainwashing techniques such as subliminal messages and emotional association through imagery in order to shore up its cultural Marxism and persuade through unreason. We have also deployed what's known as the revelation of method right here and now at the beginning of this video.
There is no escape. We have your mind.
Prepare yourself for programming sequence 2.
Hello Zero Books readers. In this YouTube video, we'll take a look at political correctness, Antonio Gramsci, and meme magic, all through the lens of Angela Nagle's book, Kill All Normies. In her book, Kill All Normies, Nagle takes on the task of examining and explaining the emergence of the right-wing subculture known as the alt-right. She explores how the alt-right via the French New Right were influenced by the Italian Marxist Antonio Gramsci, and how it was that the less politically theoretical alt-right utilized the strategies of Gramsci's cultural politics most effectively. If you've ever watched a video by Sargon of Akkad or Stefan Molyneux, you've probably heard the term cultural Marxist, or cultural Marxism. And while the term is mostly a slur, most of the explanations of the term tend to drift off into blatant anti-Semitic conspiracism about the Frankfurt School and the Jews. If there ever was a Marxist thinker who fit the designation of cultural Marxist, Antonio Gramsci would probably be that one. While most Marxists were concerned about changing what's called the mode of production, either by facilitating a workers' revolt, wherein the workers would take control over the factories and workshops directly for themselves, or by creating a workers' state that would own industry in the name of the workers, after socialism failed to take hold in Italy and Mussolini's National Fascists took power and imprisoned Gramsci and his comrades, Gramsci decided the aim of socialists should not be to seek political control as a first step, but to change civil society, everyday life, or what constituted common sense first. Gramsci thought that if socialists couldn't change popular culture, they would never change politics or the economy. Gramsci's conclusion is widely shared today, even by those who don't share Gramsci's socialist ambitions. The idea that changes in culture always come before political change is a common assumption, and the pervasiveness of the idea helps to explain why contemporary political conversations so often focus on movies, pop songs, and other ephemera of the culture industry.
Now that the proverbial dust has settled, it's time to talk about the most controversial film of the year, a terrible Ghostbusters remake.
Hey, why does the scientist have to be a man? That's sexist.
I think he's gonna mansplain us.
Certainly, Andrew Breitbart and those who followed him at Breitbart agreed with Gramsci about prioritizing the cultural. In fact, Breitbart was convinced not only that Gramsci was right about the primacy of culture over politics, but that Gramsci's cultural Marxists had been winning a clandestine battle for the heart and soul of America. Looking around, or clicking around online, cultural injunctions for liberal tolerance, racial sensitivity, and gender equality were absurdly pervasive. Angela Nagle notes this. She writes, "Websites ran headlines that became almost self-satirizing, like 8 signs your yoga practice is culturally appropriated, or men can be feminists but it's really hard work, or 19 of the most totally amazing body-shaming clapbacks." And by 2015, the listicle site BuzzFeed's articles were getting more shares on social media than the BBC and Fox News put together. And so it was that the reactionary right set off on its own long march through the institutions. Only the institutions they targeted weren't primarily universities or Hollywood movie studios, but social media sites like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and the blogosphere. And when Breitbart writer Milo Yiannopoulos did go to the universities, it wasn't with the ambition to change the culture there, so much as to feed the hundreds of thousands of followers he'd amassed online. Nagle writes, through courting online controversy and campus activists constantly trying to ban him, he was made into a kind of martyr figure, with devoted crowds of fans chanting Milo, Milo, Milo. His ban from Twitter aided his career in much the same way. Given how Milo and his reactionary alt-right pundits were paving the way for even more noxious propaganda from a hardcore, racist alt-right, and how successful they were in, quote, moving the Overton window, how hipsters, trolls, and snarky blondes were able to change at least the online culture enough to make the worst anti-Semitic rants and imagery seem commonplace, if not acceptable. We should be relieved to discover that Milo didn't care about politics, but was only interested in the cultural battles themselves, the battles that were supposedly going to shape our politics. The fact that we've been living through a moment where the notion of politics has been hollowed out, the fact that there is, as Nagle puts it, little other than a purely cultural politics left, is a kind of blessing in this context. And if it's true that the ugly spectacle of the Trump-Hillary race represents the logical conclusion of our culture war, then we should be fucking elated.
I didn't vote. I don't believe in democracy.
Okay.
You know, I believe in Fool, the ancient city, and raising Fool. And I think that Trump is the candidate who's going to raise Fool and Atlantis. I believe in global cooling the earth, the sea levels lowering, and I believe in land raising from the bottom of the ocean with ancient ruins.
Perhaps a key thinker to listen to in these waning days of our culture war, the pop philosopher who most accurately represents the thinking or ideology at work in a Western world in decline, is the cartoonist, hypnotist, and master persuader Scott Adams. It was Scott Adams who explained why Trump would win. It was Scott Adams who said that Trump would win because facts don't matter, humans don't really understand the world, but only react to fantasies and emotions, the world itself is irrational, and, here's the kicker, it doesn't matter who is president. Or maybe the meme magicians at 4chan and 8chan who convinced themselves that their posts about Trump were more likely to be digitally stamped with duplicate numbers than was statistically possible, and that these duplicates meant something. The trolls who started off on the Trump train for the lulz or the keks, but who were later surprised that Kek was an Egyptian god with the head of a frog and that Pepe was president. Maybe Cantbot, who joked that Trump was going to complete the system of German idealism. Maybe these people are the true philosophers not just of the alt-right, but of the whole of our hollowed, inert, and impotent politics. That is to say, maybe Gramsci got it wrong when he was in Mussolini's prison and his teeth were falling out. Maybe culture doesn't come first, any more than thinking something really hard will make it happen.
I remember Richard Spencer giving a talk. I think he was during a questions and answers thing, and somebody said, something along the lines of like, how can you hate these people who are like doing all the really low paid labor and like, picking the vegetables and so on. And I remember him saying really angrily, and he's normally very controlled. He said something like, we can pick our own damn vegetables, And I thought, hang on, you're not picking anything.
No, his pretty little fingers, are you kidding me? His uncalloused hands, come on.
Exactly, so his whole sense of the we there is people with my skin color who I am never going to meet, I'm never going to drink in the same bar as them, I'm never going to do the same work as them, so I think it's a kind of an old-fashioned dogmatic answer, but I really do think that economics and class are, the only real viable solution to the real dead end of the culture wars. Then that means that the the groups that are the most oppressed have the most to gain from economic advancements to those who do all the labor but don't get any of the value that they create.